going to call the June 13th, 2023 council meeting, Bluffton Town Council meeting to order. We will all be present. Fred's in a little bit of traffic to get here before our formal items. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and for those who'd like to follow me in the invocation, may first. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll bow your heads if you'd like. Dear Lord, thank you for giving us the blessing of serving all of our residents in this beautiful town of Bluffton. Please pray for all in attendance and all who are watching online. Please help this council make the right decisions that are good for our residents who live in our town, and just be with us and keep us in your prayerful thought. In this we pray, amen.
Amen.
And if you, next we're on the adoption of the agenda. Is there any change, Mr.?
No, ma'am.
If there's no changes from our town manager, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. We passed an ordinance on the civility pledge, which was asked for us to include from our municipal association. So if you'd like to read with me, you may. We pledge to build a stronger and more prosperous community by advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of the town of Bluffton. Thank you. We have been busy. This is an important meeting, and we have a budget on final reading, and we had 2 budget workshops, so we've had 3 meetings this month. We've had the regular meeting minutes of May. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. If there are no changes, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We had a budget workshop of May 25th. If there are no changes, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Followed by May 30th. It was a budget workshop meeting in the minutes. Are there any changes? If not, is there a motion to accept these minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to presentations, celebrations, and recognitions. We are honored again, as some of you might miss this, to celebrate the character trait of the month. This is done by, and y'all can come up, look at our student who is Avery Rogers. Come on up, Avery, and your family and your teacher. The school district does this, but we just feel it's important, since we have such a young community, that we celebrate our students who win anything. So it's a character trait of the month. Our district, y'all come up too. We'll get pictures. We compile like half of our district. Our cluster is almost half of our district, but this is in every cluster in the county. So from kindergarten to 12th grade, each month these names are put into a pile, and then they're selected. So you won out of every school in the Bluffton cluster, and so we think it's worth letting people know who you are. So your trait was forgiveness. So do we have a teacher that wants to talk about this?
Oh, man. I'm fine. To be perfectly honest with you, the character trait could have been any of the ones we've had all year, and I would have nominated Avery for that trait because she exhibits all of them. Like, she is the best of our community. She's the best of May River High School. It is a pleasure to work with her. I got to be in the high school musical with her this year, which was kind of fun and nerve-wracking for me. But really, there's nobody more deserving of this award than Avery, and pretty much every award we could ever give out. So
we'll see her, but I can see you next month. Well, thank you. I think that you've got a lot on your shoulder. You're a lovely family, and we have a lovely certificate for you, which could go to help for scholarships and references and all kind of things you're going to have to do. And then the coin is very special because we really only give it out to people. So on behalf of all of council council, we're just very, very proud of you, Avery. Thank you. She can send it to you. Thank you. We want to see you.
Thank
The
you
bar
so
is
much.
high.
That's right.
Next is the Juneteenth proclamation, and Selena, if Selena Chisholm would come up, she's going to accept this. While you're walking, whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared the enslaved peoples in any state or designated part of a state to thenceforth and forever free. Whereas this proclamation paved the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. Whereas on June 19, 1865, federal orders were read in Galveston, Texas, reaching the authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States who had not yet received word of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Whereas June 19th has since become known as Freedom Day or Emancipation Day, a holiday that commemorates the announcement of the abolition of slavery in Texas in June of 1865, 901 days after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Abraham Lincoln. Whereas the Bluffton Juneteenth celebration is sponsored and hosted annually by the Bluffton MLK Observance Committee, with the 8th annual Juneteenth celebration theming Honoring the Past, Celebrating the Progress, Building on the Promise of Freedom for All. Whereas the town of Bluffton is committed to pursuing the ideals of justice, equity, and peace, the town of Bluffton recognizes Juneteenth as an important opportunity to honor the principles of the Declaration of Independence and to celebrate African American freedom while reflecting on the continuous significant contributions of African Americans to the Bluffton community, the state of South Carolina, and across our nation. Whereas, in recognition of the 160th anniversary of the emancipation of all people who were enslaved in the United States of America, I, Lisa Solka, along with Bluffton Town Council, hereby declare June 19th, 2023 as Juneteenth Day in the town of Bluffton, designating it as a town holiday. I think we were one of the first to make it a holiday, and then the state followed us. So sometimes towns get to do that. If you'd like to say a few words, we'll get a picture, and then if you'd like to just talk about the week, we'd love for you to do so.
Well, I just want to say that this event is just to show the accomplishment that our culture have achieved throughout the years. And it's just to bring people in unity. Now, Friday, we have our food truck, which is going to be from 5 to 10 p.m. at the Buck Walters Commerce Park. And then Saturday is the big event, the 8th annual Juneteenth Festival. That's going to be between 4 and 10 p.m. at the Bluffton Distillery. Burton Church Distillery, yes. And Sunday we top it off with the Jazz Brunch. And that is also at the distillery, and it's also from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we're excited about it, and thank you.
Absolutely. We'll get a picture. Great. And last year, yes. Last year, we were there at the distillery and I left thinking it was winding down, and then I saw it was winding up. So there's music and dancing, and it really is a lot of fun. So for those of you watching online or here or see it, please come out and support it. It's a great day. Richard Hummus, if he could come forward. Richard's been a good friend and is a big believer in Gun Violence Awareness Month, so we're honored to read this for you. Whereas gun violence touches every segment of our society, people of all ages, it increases the probability of death and incidents of domestic violence, raises the likelihood of fatality by those who intend to injure others, and among those who attempt suicide. It places children and young people at increased risk of physical harm and injury, and disproportionately affects our communities of color. Whereas Gun Violence Awareness Month honors the many lives that have been cut short by gun violence in our country and our community and supports efforts to reduce gun-related crimes in the United States. Whereas it is important to recognize community organizations which assist families that have been directly impacted by gun violence and provide a continuum of care to grieving parents, spouses, family members, and friends who must continue to provide for surviving family members. Whereas the town supports continued statewide efforts to strengthen gun safety laws and educate the community on safe gun storage. Whereas it is appropriate to set aside time to honor those Americans whose lives are cut short each year by gun violence and the countless survivors whose lives are forever altered. Now therefore, I, Lisa Sulka, Mayor of the Town of Bluffton, on behalf of the Town Council, do hereby proclaim June 2023 in Bluffton as Gun Violence Awareness Month and urge all citizens, businesses, organizations, and agencies to work collaboratively to reduce gun violence in our community.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a lot.
Thank you, it's all important.
Yes.
Look at a picture.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce presentation by Tom Mims. Oh, it's not Tom Mims, it's Ariana Pernice. Good evening. How are you?
Hello, my name is Ariana Pernice, and I am with the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce. And unfortunately, Tom was pulled away unexpectedly, so I just wanted to respectfully request that he could change his date for another time, and I do apologize, if that's okay.
We can do that.
Okay, I do apologize. It was unexpected.
We've got everyone here who needs to know about that, so thank you.
Thank you very much for everything.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ariana, for coming. That's presentations, celebrations, and recognitions. Next, we have public comment. We have a couple of things before I read this public comment. Council had asked that our town attorney get an attorney general's opinion on some of our public comment because we've strengthened some of our rules since we've been at the Municipal Association. So it is published. It's on the Attorney General's site. I thought I would just go over a couple of things, not to belabor it, but it did give us comfort that our reasonable rules of order were within the jurisdiction of what we can do. And it was basically confining the comments, I'll just read this, confining the comments to 3 minutes per meeting, regardless of whether the person is speaking on their own behalf or an agent for others. Meeting attendees may not donate, transfer, yield, or give all or any portion of their speaking time to another person. And that was made fair by the Attorney General and did not prohibit the freedom of First Amendment protection. All public comments are to be conducted from the podium and directed to the Town Council as a whole, and not to any member thereof. All speakers shall confine their comments to issues under the jurisdiction of the Town Council. They shall not use the period to advertise awards or businesses or candidates for public office. Any speaker that violates these rules of protocol may be ruled out of order by the presiding officer. Any person whose comments have been ruled out of order shall immediately cease and desist from further improper comments, and the refusal of an individual to desist from further improper comments may be subject to removal from the meeting and or citation under our section 2.49 of the Town Code. So please read that. Overall, I think everyone understands it, but I just wanted to get that in the record. So we have public comment, and I will eat this and be able to talk. Maybe we'll move to our Carrie. I'll let you call everyone.
Andrew Keel.
And when you come up, if you could give me your name and your address, because our town clerk needs it when she does the minutes at a later date. So Andrew.
Andrew Keel. I live at 22 Trail Ridge Retreat, Bluffton, South Carolina. So I was coming up because I had a couple questions. As you know, I live in Midpoint Subdivision, and plans are moving forward there. And went to the DRC meeting for the preliminary development plan, and I was under the impression that the preliminary development plan would then have to go to Planning Council. I believe, unless I misunderstood, a person I talked to there from the town stated that was the case. I emailed Mr. Frazier. He said that once there's a preliminary development plan approved by the DRC, it doesn't go to Planning Commission. And then I guess, I'm not sure what happens after that. So I'm trying to get clarification as to what exactly the process is. Now, I found the Department of Growth Management Customer Service Center application process table that was on the town website that indicates that it would have to go to the Planning Commission and therefore have some public comment. Now, I understand this is a PUD, so the PUD agreement may alter that. But then again, when I read the PUD section, which the amendments to master plans then follow, on 5811A, it says the development plan shall be submitted to the Development Review Board or its designated agent and such other professional advisors the town may designate. So I'm kind of curious why this chart doesn't apply, and therefore the preliminary development plan doesn't go to the Planning Commission. If somebody could eventually follow up with me on that, I would like to know that, because I think this is going to be an issue, because there's other developments that are going to be started again that everybody comes in and amends their master plan, like in Southern Oaks. I think there's 43 acres that somebody wants to build on now. So I imagine they'll amend their master plan, and just like at the Alston Park meeting 3 or 4 meetings ago, where they want to build on the other side of the road going to the community park, this might be an issue. Another question I had is, at that same meeting where the Classic Car Place was amending the master plan, and there was an issue about the road going into the existing development, and that the developer failed to build the road to the property limits and then left, I think it was posed to Attorney Finger what the town's recourse was. And I'm not sure if that has ever been answered or whatever. I'm just kind of curious what it is, because as you know, Midpoint developers came in, built some stuff, left, went out of business, whatever, and things didn't get built. Anyhow, had a few other things, so that's
Thank
all
you.
my time. Appreciate it.
And we don't speak at public comment
I
to
understand.
comments, but we will make sure Stephen will get someone with you, and
Sounds great. Thank
you
you.
hear from communications from mayor and council, we might be able to answer it then.
No problem. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Keel.
Robert Jones.
Good evening.
Hello, everybody. My name is Robert Jones. I don't live in the town of Bluffton. I live at 22 Bridle Pathway. But I am the executive director of the Historic Bluffton Foundation. I'm the new old director, or the old new director. I'm not really sure which, so I'm trying to figure that out. But I'm here to support the renewal of our MOU. I think we've done a really good job trying to pull out of the doldrums of the pandemic, and we're doing an excellent job of bringing in people. We've had over 16,000 people come over and visit us over the last year, and I'm thinking we'll probably do about 20,000 this year. And obviously we have the Garvin Garvey House open now, and we have that staffed 3 days a week, and we're having really good numbers there too. And that's part of the MOU. And I didn't want to sit up here and take a long time, but I will come back and I will talk with y'all, and we can discuss what's going on there. But I didn't want to take up a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and welcome back. And thank you for coming. Yes, Gary?
Skip Hoagland.
Mr. Hoagland?
Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. Ms. Sulkin, we need a law compliance pledge. You send emails from your town and personal real estate emails to Bill Miles of the Chamber, Kim Likens, and Bill Harkins, past Hilton Head Council members, to say stop and get Mr. Hoagland. It is not a fact both you and Likens defamation lawsuit were both frivolous and malicious and schemed with you and others. Ms. Solka, I am in technology business, and these emails have been captured off these servers and will be used against you for my $50 million lawsuit. You committed perjury under oath, a crime, in your deposition at the Murdoch lawyer's office that I attended. We have that live fully documented, and I assume you know that. You did an illegal membership drive with Mark Orlando and Terry Finger using town employees on town time to sell 500 memberships for Bill Miles in the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber to try and put your own official Greater Bluffton Chamber out of business that I'm a member of. We have the emails, and you owe $190,000 in damages to the official Greater Bluffton Chamber. You used illegal tax money to join the town of Bluffton with Orlando to become a Hilton Head Chamber member versus your own money. Who is a member since you use tax money? Just you and town employees, or all taxpayers in Bluffton? Plus, the Hilton Head Chamber is using millions of tax money for its illegal use. Ms. Solka, is it not a fact the $50 million judgment you won against me with Murdoch lawyers was frivolous, malicious, and schemed to silence my voice from exposing your lies and corruption? Is it not a fact that your lawsuits were ruled against the rule of law and a judge was caught lying, saying he saw enough evidence to allow my case to go to trial? Ms. Solka, you understand I will seek lawsuits in the same $50 million from you since you did lie with your Murdoch lawyers, and I have all the evidence on my side. Ms. Solka, you committed illegal acts, criminal perjury. You schemed to harm not only me, but my innocent wife, who also accused of committing fraud and conspiracy to hide $50 million. It's massive insanity. You will pay a big price for this, Ms. Solka. You are in trouble. You and your crooked Murdoch lawyers will never collect an insane $50 million judgment against me. Fact is, you owe me $50 million for your illegal acts and your extreme violations to the First Amendment rights. I never defamed you. I spoke the truth about you. You, your lawyer Finger, and Orlando past manager will never will be held liable for your many lies and damages against me. Removing me today, even today, by police force is violating my POA and First Amendment and is increasing my damages against you every time this happens. Thank you.
Lynn Greeley.
I'm here to submit a POA.
Sir.
Ms. Lynn Greeley?
Sir.
No, I'm here to submit. Ms. Lynn Greeley could not be here today.
She could, and you
She could
cannot
not be. She had to leave, and she asked me to read with a POA
Out of
document.
order, sir.
I ask
Out of
you,
order.
I ask you to please allow me
Public
to
comment.
Ms. Greeley's, please allow you to allow me to finish Ms.
Next for
Greeley's speech.
communications from mayor and council.
I ask you nicely to please allow me to finish Ms. Greeley's
Mr. Hoagland.
POA speech.
Mr. Hoagland, your comment's been ended.
Here's a legal-
Public
legal
comment is
POA.
over. You're now disrupting
I
a
ask
public
you to please
meeting.
allow me to finish his speech.
No, sir.
not allowed.
Public comment has
This
been
is a legal
over.
document.
You were disrupting a public meeting.
I'm not disturbing anything. I'm
You're
asking
trying to
nicely
move forward with a
please
public
let me
meeting, and
finish
you're
my
preventing
speech.
that from
I'm
happening.
not disturbing a meeting.
You need to stop speaking now.
Nicely to respect my First Amendment and my POA rights. That's all I'm doing. Why can't you just give me a citation and let me finish and let the judge rule it?
Mr. Hoagland, you need to
I wanna
leave.
finish
You need to sit down, or you'll be escorted out.
Let me finish my speech, please. It's not, you're violating the First Amendment by putting your hands on me. Sheriff Tanner said you're not supposed to do this.
Communications from
He needs to sit or be escorted, please.
on this.
Make sure I don't hurt your shoulder. No.
Yeah, you're good.
Please let me finish.
You want to say, do you have anything, Fred, from mayor and council? Anything on the right from mayor and council?
Just want to remind everyone again and thank Selena for announcing the Bluffton Juneteenth activities that we have going on, and looking forward to having the community join us for that. We are partnering with the TIF on the event on Friday. Also communication, one of our residents experienced a tragedy with the burning of their home, and there will be a benefit hosted tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the Oscar Frazier Park to provide relief for the family. Tickets are $20 for that event and can be purchased on Eventbrite or at the event tomorrow at the park.
Anything, Larry? Follow up on that, I think our town attorney might not remember this. I don't think you were at the retreat, but at the Heritage Foundation retreat, we showed the video of the history of the heritage.
Right.
And Ben Frazier was one of the key people, and he's over all the landscaping and seaponds. And it was an interesting thing he said in this video that I hope we send out one day, because it's a fabulous video. If he leaves Bluffton and the sun is rising, he's late for work. That is commitment that I wish every one of us could have. So I ditto that. It's June 14th at Oscar Frazier, and I plan on being there. June 21st, we have been working for decades to support St. Joe Candler with 3 mammograms in this town. They do 1,000 women, a Smart Woman's Lunch, which we've been part of with the women in the town, supporting that. And I walked in on WSAV a couple of weeks ago, and Tina Tyus Shaw was talking about Bluffton Mammo Day. So I immediately called her, immediately called Dr. Hinchy and thanked him. They raised $900,000 at last year's luncheon to buy a mobile mammo van. So Tina has made it an effort to get them in Bluffton. They're coming June 21st. Debbie sent out the info. You just go on WSAV/Bluffton Mammo Day, and insured or not, mammo, you've got to set up a time, but it's really for the ladies who are not insured. They're not going to charge anything. If you do have insurance, they're going to try to process it. But it's just fabulous. So if everyone can spread that, that is just, man, drop the mic moment on that. So I did want to let everyone know that. Terry, I didn't mean to stop you, but I just didn't want to interrupt the public comment.
No, I just wanted to say for the record that prior to the meeting today, at about 4:45, Mr. Hoagland approached me, gave me the POA from Ms. Greeley. I told him that was fine, but he was limited to 3 minutes, and that if he went over 3 minutes, he undoubtedly would be disturbing our meeting, keeping us from moving forward, that he would be escorted out, and he would probably be given a citation. I also informed him that we had confirmation that our rules were all valid from the South Carolina Attorney General, and he said he really didn't care.
It is important. I've had counsel ask me, and I've had a lot of people reach out to ask why we are doing what we're doing. But y'all, we're having the most important meeting probably of the year tonight. Our budget, we're doing our boards and commissions. We have issues, Mr. Keel gets up and he has issues and wants answers, and, he's being patient and waiting for this, which I hope we can get an answer maybe now or get with him. And this gentleman actually asked our judge to get an AG opinion, so we did. And right, wrong, or indifferent, we just wanted to make sure our rules were reasonable. And based on what they said, there wasn't one that wasn't reasonable. So I hope those who are listening know we are trying to be as respectful as possible. At the same time, we've got business to do. And we are a working council, and I'm a working mayor, and we all have families, and you all have families, and we're holding you up. But this is important for our residents, and we have 40,000 of them. So we need to make sure our heads are in the game. So I do apologize. Anything else from council? Heather, do you want to just get with Mr. Keel on those questions? Okay, because I agree there should maybe be some kind of format, at least you know where to go, and I know we see it when it comes to council, but if you could please get with him and let us know what you tell him so we know.
Well, there was movement on that topic today, apparently, so.
Right. Okay, thank you, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. Anything else? Okay, we have moved up consent agenda because just this one time only, because we need to get something approved before we go into our formal items. So there is a consent agenda section now. Is there anything anyone would like pulled off for more discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve this consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Next, we have a public hearing, and this is for our 2024 budget. So it's approving the Town of Bluffton fiscal year 2024 proposed consolidated budget. I'm going to call for public comment on our budget during the public hearing. Second call for public comment for the public hearing of our fiscal year 2024 proposed budget. Third and final call for public comment for the public hearing on our Town of Bluffton fiscal year 2024 proposed consolidated budget. Public hearing is closed. You're up for final reading, Mr. Stees.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As we have hashed this out over the last month, during first reading, I was a little more detailed than I'm going to be tonight since we've had the first reading and 2 workshops. So I'm going to go at a little higher level tonight as we're going to the second reading and just hit on some things that have changed since first reading and then go over kind of some of the consolidated budget numbers. So this is our schedule for the budget and approval process. So as you can see, we're at the budget ordinance second reading and we just had the public hearing with no comment. So we're moving on to proposed final reading for council. So a few changes since the first reading on May 9th. We did increase, it will look like an increase for the general fund. This is where we're going to be setting aside the neighborhood assistance program and the reserve funds that we're going to track like we talked about at the second workshop. But that's going to be a transfer in for those funds, and we'll track those just like we talked about. You'll see it in the audit every year, and we'll carry those forward year over year, just like the other grant programs that are there. The local accommodations tax, it increased, and part of that was from where we decreased the amount that we sent to the Greater Bluffton Chamber, or the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce, sorry. Got them backwards there. And then also the 15% that we are going to use for affordable housing that we are now allowed to do so underneath the state law that was passed this year. Capital Improvement Fund increased by $63,900. That is that 4% of that we cut from the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce. So it was an 8%. 4 is staying in the local accommodations tax. 4 is going to CIP projects. We're going to move that over, and that was that increase of $60,900 that you see there. So remember, we had 8% of local aid tax that was going to fund, 4% staying in local aid tax. We're going to use that to offset expenses that we have, and then the other portions going over to CIP to help offset CIP projects that can go for local aid tax can pay for things like the renovations of Squire Pope, property programs like that. So the total consolidated impact increase is about $750,000, with about half of it being in interfund transfers. So I'm going to go through our funds real quick. Again, this is our consolidated budget broken up by funds. So you can see our total budget for the year is proposed to be $78,572,643. This is a 7.2% increase. But I will, again, just like I've done to all the other ones, point out that we are now tracking our special revenue funds as part of one of our special revenue funds now includes hospitality and local accommodations tax. So the previous year, you'll see in 23, there's a 0 in that line. In 24, it's $9.3 million. So if you remove that out of the budget for this year, it's actually of a decrease of about $4 million over where we were last year. We just didn't have we didn't track those funds in our consolidated budget. This year we are, so there's that. You can see that 0 versus the $9 million. That's what is showing that increase that's in there. So what does our consolidated budget do? Some of the highlights is it recognizes some of the slowdown we've had in the growth for residential construction that we've seen. It keeps our property tax millage the same at 38.5 mils. As I've said numerous times, it is pending reassessment that's ongoing at the county right now. So once we start getting more reassessment updates, we'll provide that to council, and we'll have to revisit our millage once we get what the increase in values are, and we have to do look at our millage to move forward. So we'll bring that back to y'all probably soon in August once we get those numbers from the county. So
you expect all those numbers to be positive?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the property values are going to continue to go up.
I was wondering if you saw something I didn't.
No, the key to remember is during reassessment, the max with Act 388 that a property value can increase is 15%. So this is a lot of times for our longtime homeowners. This is one of the only times their property values will increase. So I'm assuming if somebody didn't increase from selling their property, after 4 or 5 years, with the growth we've seen in property values, they're going to max out at that 15% cap. But with Act 388, it is capped at 15% for those that could not afford it actually getting up to its true value for some of our longtime homeowners. And that's state law, that's not local, just so we clarify that. It also focuses on town council priority programs. We talked about neighborhood assistance. That's part of our affordable housing priority. Historic preservation, I mentioned funds that can go to Squire Pope with one of our major historic renovation projects right now. Enhancing quality of life, we'll talk about that in CIP for a lot of the sidewalks, sewers, and other projects we're doing throughout the town parks. It also works to keep our pay competitive. As we talked about, we did our class and comp study last year. So between our class and comp study and our merit increase that we have in our current budget that's about to end, all employees got on average of about a 7% increase from that, and then a 2% from the merit increase. So we had about 9% on average increase last year. This year it'd be about 4%, 2% COLA, which would bump our pay bands up to keep us competitive. So when we do our next class and comp, our pay bands aren't staying stagnant while we see salaries grow. And then the other would be a mid-year merit increase. So that's about a 13% increase over the last 2 years for our employees. And as we talked about in our our first workshop, we've gotten our mean and median salary for our employees actually above the AMI level. So we're beating our county for median income here at the town. So that's something we've done over the past 2 years.
Clarity for those who weren't aware, before we did the wage and salary analysis, we had actually fallen behind in our pay scale classifications. So when we say 13%, it's really we were making up
for those
who were under.
Right, and the COLA cost of living adjustments will allow us to keep that from being so drastic in the future. And then, as I talked about, invest in public infrastructure. You can see a list of a lot of our CIP projects that are ongoing and that we have in the future there. So it does propose some master fee schedule changes. Some of this is to catch up with the cost of actually doing stuff. We mentioned off-duty police pay. That's to recognize the increase we've had for the cost of a police officer from where we've been bumping pay up. Retirement's increased, insurance increased, so forth. It does add a new rental fee for the Buckwalter Park that we purchased, the old Evercore Park that is now our Buckwalter Amphitheater Park. So it creates a rental fee. So after July 1, once this is adopted and goes into place, we'll be able to begin renting that facility just like we do Martin Family and other Oyster Factory Park and other town facilities throughout the community. And we did keep that fee similar to what we charge for Martin Family Park to make sure that whether they want to be in Old Town or out of Buckwalter, it's similar and affordable for the community. And then we did adjust a few growth management fees. We added one in there for some things that we didn't have for printing copies of documents like our comp plan. We had somebody ask for a hard copy of that, and it's about $70 to print. So we added a fee in there for anybody who wants a hard copy. We are going to put it in the library. So in the future, we'll have our comp plan and some of our other plans. We're going to ask the library to put them on the shelf, so if anybody wants them, they can go check them out, read them, and not have to worry about getting the copies from us, and try to make it easier for the community to access those things outside of the website. Was that what you were going to say, Mayor? Okay. And then we also added one more stormwater fee. It's the same amount. It's just a reinspection fee versus whenever we have to go out and inspect ponds that have been closed out. And there's the map for the portion of the Buckwalter Park that will now be rentable, and you'll be able to either rent Park A or Park B or all of it together for a uniform fee.
The fees on both parks are the same, Stephen?
I think Park A is a little cheaper.
I would think.
With the amphitheater and all that, I think it's $300 and this one's $600. And if you want to rent them both together, it'd be $900 for renting both of them. So it's just a lump of the two together. So. And we have a lot of people who rent this for birthdays, and I have a feeling this will be become another big spot for people to rent for different events and stuff like that. And this is where the Black Food Truck Friday will be held, is in the amphitheater portion.
Stephen?
Yes, sir.
How do we come up with the fees? What metric you use to decide what the cost?
So for this, we used what we charge for other parks, what had already been set by council. So when we looked at the fee to charge for this one, we looked at the amount of land that there's to rent, the amenities that are there for power, for being able to have the whole area fenced off and secured. And we looked at Oyster Factory and Wright family, or Martin family, and looked at what we charged for those and made it the same.
Council was suggested that we try to break even with our fees. In other words, if it costs for staff and whatever supplies needed, is that working?
So one of the things that we did recommend, and I went over it because I talked about the rental fee, is bumping our cleaning fee up, and it's for that reason. Because we redid our cleaning contract for the town, and they raised their fee to do a cleaning after event. So we did that to break even, to make sure that what we pay the contractor is being the same as what we charge for that. We'll track that and see what it looks like, just like we do with other. And if we need to adjust that rate, we can come back to council and have that conversation. But without having rented it out before, it's hard to adjust, to guess how much power usage, water usage, and all that we're going to see, and how much additional maintenance and upkeep we're going to see until we actually see what kind of people rent them and what that looks like over the next year or two. That's why we used Martin and Oyster Factory as really our guide, because we know that we at least break even at those.
Well, to follow up with that, I think it would be a good exercise if you can do it somehow with all these metrics and our fabulous finance. Does that $600 a day plus the cleaning fee break even of staff time and maintenance? And I think that's where we kind of wanted, we don't want to lose money on it, but I don't think we ever thought parks were going to be a money maker. So are we losing? Are we breaking even? I think that'd be a
We
good
track that. We can look into it. And one of the things that affects that is if you're a nonprofit, we normally let you rent it for free. So a lot of that reduces the amount of revenue, because I would say probably a third, if not half, of who wants to rent our facilities are nonprofits. So that affects that. So we can, because I have community outreach, events and outreach, Debbie and Lindy track that, and they keep up with how much we actually forgive for nonprofits versus how much we actually generate. So we can compare that and see where we're coming in at.
Yeah, and I was thinking when we revised this, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever, the nonprofits were half of what a normal fee was. It wasn't supposed to be free, because we have a lot of nonprofits that are legit, but we have a lot of nonprofits that aren't really nonprofits, that are utilizing their opportunity for certain, for some of this stuff. I've witnessed, especially at the Oyster Factory Park and even at the other parks, when there is an event on Saturday night, I've had to call Stephen or somebody to get there to come, and trash cans are overrunning. There's a lot of work that goes in, not just a small birthday party, so to speak, but there is a lot of expense. We have to have someone on call to go in and check things and make sure things are in order, especially when you rent the park on Saturday and Sunday.
And we've actually addressed that with flexing of staff. So we have a staff or two that actually work on the weekends now to address that, instead of to have them all work the same schedule and having to have them called in. So we've handled a lot of that by having people, at least 1 or 2 people here on the weekends now with the events, to be able to go and address that. Plus, if we have storms, if there's something that happens in Old Town or anywhere, we have them already here to address that, and they can do about some maintenance stuff while employees aren't here. So we've addressed some of that without any additional cost.
Mr. Hamilton has a question.
Yes, sir.
The legitimate nonprofits. I don't think we should measure those the same as figuring out whether we breaking even or not. I think the purpose of even giving the nonprofit the opportunity to be an asset to the town, in most events they do, is a contribution to our town. So if you're going to do a metric to say break even or not, I'm comfortable, I don't know the rest of council, I'm comfortable taking a loss if they're a legitimate nonprofit. But when you measure whether those who are using it for profit, then I think that's how we want to make sure we break even.
We'll get them to pull the numbers and see what's being paid and but they do track that for me, so we can get that information.
Bridget, since she hasn't asked a question, and then
Not a question, just a comment while we're on the subject. As Councilman Hamilton said he didn't know the rest of council's thoughts, I'll weigh in on mine. I agree in regards to nonprofits, but when it comes to for-profits, I think we should be looking to do more than just break even, in the sense of we do spend a lot of money in parks, and it is a lot of effort and time, even from Public Works, and maintaining and keeping the parks up to date and upfitting them. So it would almost be kind of at disadvantageous to create them and not expect to be able to have some type of revenue that goes beyond just break even, because we tout ourselves to be known for parks and what we're doing here. So it has to kind of make sense too, in being able to continuously man them, especially as we're adding on more parks.
Bridget, the only problem that we're going to run into with that is that we're going to tax people out of the parks, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure the park is accessible to the community. So you don't want to look for a profit, because that means that they can't use the parks, and a lot of people who would like to use the parks probably couldn't afford it.
But that's for nonprofit. If it's for profit, no different than whether it's the Beaufort Waterfront Park or any other parks, even the parks that we have now. Sometimes there's multiple people running to want to be able to rent these parks for their festival events or music events are going on. It's not the same as a family wanting to do a birthday party or anything else, because those are still first come, first serve, and nonprofits aren't waived into the same fee criteria as the for-profit. I'm just saying, in that breakdown, it should be looked at differently.
I think that might be your strategic retreat item, because we can always change this mid-year.
Well, and
I know Larry had a question.
Well, and as we have the new Riverside Barn come on, that's going to be a completely different kind of fee schedule that we're needing to look at with that barn venue and stuff like that. So it can continue to be a longer conversation. I do have one comment, but I can keep mine until.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, and this was before your time when we revised these rules and stuff. I'm quite sure there was a stipulation in there that the park could be used by a nonprofit for so many times a year, not.
I think it's 4. They can use it
5
for
or 10 or whatever, because I'll just throw it out there the way it is, because I shoot from the hip. Some of these nonprofits have owners and employees that are making more money than anybody in this room. You know what I'm saying? So if it's a nonprofit and they're getting 2% of the $5 they're charging to get in the gate, which might be a couple of $300 to somebody, or to the dog park or whatever, that needs to be looked at, because there is some of that going on. And you know what I'm saying? So those
4 times
parks
a year
weren't
they're
built for
limited.
them.
Anything else on this item? I think it's something we can really look at, and yes, you may make a comment.
So one thing I will point out as we start talking about fees and we talk about our cost, we're going to get in a minute to talk about our local aid tax, hospitality, and how we've recalculated what we transfer from those to offset some of our expenses that we use to handle some of these events. So now we have those transfers coming in, and they help offset some of the costs for that department. So just keep that in mind as we start talking about what we generate and the positions and that kind of stuff. We also have those other revenue sources that are going to be coming, that Chris has done the calculation on, that we're going to transfer those in to help offset some of those costs as well. So there's just another aspect of that to keep in
Like the
place, and that's
police,
part of it.
Like the people, the party giver doesn't have to pay the police.
Right, the police, but also Lindy and Debbie and Tia, because a lot of stuff they do is marketing the events, or Lindy is going out and meeting them on site and securing it.
Sure.
So their costs can be offset. So some of that's it's going to start being done with that transfer from accommodations and hospitality. So just to keep that in mind, that was part of that calculation that Chris did this year.
Great.
Okay.
So to move on from that, that takes us to the value of a mill. So as you can see, from fiscal year 23 to the fiscal year 24, it grew by about $30,000, a little more of value. So that means one mill last year was worth a little short of $295. This year it's estimated to be worth about $328,000. So that shows the positive growth that we have in the community for the land value, and I think we'll see that again increase as we see reassessment come about. So that we're going to go into the general fund. So the general fund accounts for primary resources of the town that we use to operate the town, and it's also where property taxes, license, permits, fees, and stuff like that are collected that go to operate the town. So this gives you a breakdown of the fiscal year, current fiscal year, proposed fiscal year, the changes, and what percentage of the budget change that is from year to year. So you can see property taxes, license, permits, and so on down through there. This matches everything we've talked about through the first reading and through the workshops. And then I already talked a good bit about this. It includes some of it includes the COLA and the mid-year merit. It includes the PTO payout for 25 hours that we do for our employees to allow them to sell back a little bit of time for those that don't use it and are good stewards of it. It includes an increase in our retirement contribution for all of our employees of 1%. I think we have one more year left of that to increase. It's going up 7% over 5 years. That was the state passed that. It also includes 5% increase in our costs for employer health insurance through PEBA. It does have a few new positions in it. One is a part-time position in communications and community outreach, which we just talked about events and how that's growing, and that's why we need that additional position. It does talk about moving a part-time position to a full-time in customer service. We are doing a backfill for a position that is retiring, I think in November. And so this is in finance, so we'll get somebody in. They'll cross-train each other. She'll train her replacement, and when she retires in November, this person will step into her role. And that works out well because they're responsible for the audit, working with our audit, so they'll be able to train them through this current fiscal year's audit before she leaves. And then once we get through the fiscal year, we will not refill that full-time position will disappear, just like we did whenever Vicki retired, same way. It also continues the move from the full-time deputy clerk of court to 2 part-times. That was what Lisa wanted as we transitioned, and we brought in a part-time judge. And then we talked a lot about the Class 3 SROs that the police department are working to fill. I think they have 3, and they have 3 more that they're trying to get in through the process now, so we can have them as soon as school gets done, as soon as we can after school starts. The thing with that is those are all grant funded. So those will not cost the town anything. They're 100% funded through a grant through the state, and they're in partnership with the school district and the sheriff's office. So they're working with us on the training, and then the school district sets the rate. They'll work the same hours as school officers, school teachers and staff do, and they'll be off for the summer, Christmas, just like they are, and then they'll only have jurisdiction over the school that they're working at. So it's a interesting program, and it will get an SRO in every school in Bluffton from early education all the way through high school.
One question on that, Stephen, that I was thinking about. Like, if there's a special event or a day that's school's not actually in session, but there may be a dance that night or something else, so those officers would have to...
They would be considered
still on
extra duty.
Like teachers work more hours than Anybody.
There would be some opportunity there, but when school's out, they can't go and patrol the street like our current SROs do.
Right, but if they have to work more than 40 hours, are they on overtime? That's the way
Would
it
we
is.
would we even use them?
Yes. Oh, the school may want to use them for events they have after hours and stuff like that, and then they would cover that cost. The only time they would be any cost to us if, say, we wanted to use them for, say, like the Christmas parade, and they were out for school, and we wanted to say, hey, you want to come block traffic or help direct traffic, we might have to pay them extra duty pay to come in and do something like that. But they don't have arresting power. They can just do some guidance that's given to them. All right. So a couple of more expenditure highlights. It does support professional development and our staff certifications, continuing to grow our staff, especially in our police department where we have a bunch of young officers and getting them certifications and building their skill set. Continues our contract with Waste Management for garbage service. It supports our PD recruitment and retention, our mental health programs. It also, again, we talked about the Class 3 office already, historic preservation, and our Don Ryan Center for Innovation. It also maintains the same level of support that we have with a bunch of our partnerships with LUTSI, Crossing Guard, Special Investigations, partnerships with the Sheriff's Office. It includes funding for our neighborhood plan updates. We're in the process of doing Buckeye and Simmonsville right now, and then we'll figure out where we want to go after we do that one. And then it also continues our vehicle lease program for the police department. And we talked about affordable housing several times, but it is a priority, so it is listed continuously, and you'll see that. And then it also does our beautification committee work plan. So I'm going to get into the special revenues, and this is, again, a new one. This hasn't been in here previously, so these funds have grown to a point where we need to start tracking them, just like we do stormwater and CIP and debt. So our local hospitality tax is 2% that's collected on all prepared foods, beverages. So as you can see, for fiscal year 24, it's grown to the point where it's estimated to be about $3.8 million. And then the expenditures out for that, as you can see, the majority of it, about 72%, is going in for CIP projects, and the other is coming into the general fund to support operations of the town. Our local accommodations tax, this is collected 3% on gross proceeds derived from rental and charges for sleeping accommodations. I will point out one of the things that came out of the budget last year and that is reflected in the budget for this year is reducing the 8% that was going to our DMO, which is the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce, and that reduces that from 8% to 0%, which takes about $128,000 that was going to them and repurposes it. 4% of it's going to the general fund, 4% will go to CIP. So we will repurpose it to programs that are priorities for council. It also proposes begin with the Act 274, or Senate 284, I forget what act number it is, 56, something like that, where we can now take 15% of accommodations and local accommodations tax and put them towards affordable housing programs to begin moving that 15% into our capital project for affordable housing. So this is our local accommodations tax. As you can see, it's up to estimated to be about $1.6 million, with the majority of it, 88.2%, going to CIP, and about 12% being transferred in for operations in the general fund to offset operations. So stormwater fund is next. This is charged by a stormwater utility fee and permit fees that are collected on annually. The permit fees are whenever construction's done for review. Stormwater utility fees are collected annually. So to give you an idea, fiscal year 23 was about $2 million, a little over $2 million. Fiscal year 24 is only estimated to increase a little over $30,000. And you can see license and permit, it's anticipated to go up slightly. So that gives you the kind of breakdown with total expenditures. The majority going out to CIP or debt service to help pay for the debt obligation that we took to continue the stormwater sewer projects that we were doing, the stormwater projects, and then about I guess that's about a third, or not even a third, about with the 335,000 is going to the general fund to offset the expenditures related to our stormwater operations. So then we have our CIP fund. This is where all of our capital projects get done that we have a lot in progress and we're continuing to push on. This gives you a breakdown of where the revenues come from that. You can see it totals about almost $29 million. And then the expenditures break down on where those funds are going between stormwater and sewer projects, road projects, facilities, land acquisition, housing, and so forth. And just to give you an idea, we talked about projects underway. You can see what the proposed budget for this year was about a little over 36 million. Next year, it's about to go down about $7.5 million. That's from the amount of projects that we're pushing forward and getting those projects moving forward. So we're not in anticipation of having to carry as much forward as we did last year. This gives you a breakdown on which funds are supporting which projects, so you can just kind of see all that together. It's a lot on a chart. This is available for anybody who wants to see it, and they can look at it more detailed, but it gives you a breakdown of where it's coming in from general fund, hospitality tax, local aid tax, state aid tax, stormwater fees, our TIF bonds, GO bonds, and so forth. You can see exactly where each project is being funded as we continue to move forward. And this just gives you an idea of where our projects are. This is kind of a zoomed out version, so you can see where they're at as we cover all of the town and different locations. And then a breakdown for a lot of the ones we have going on in Old Town to include a lot of sewer, streetscape, and other projects like that. And then our last fund is our debt service fund. This is where we borrow money and then we have to track it and pay it back. So this is what debt service is. So you can see our debt service for fiscal year 24 is estimated to be a little short of $4 million. And then, I'm sorry, $7.5 million. I was looking at the subtotal up there for revenues before the transfer ends. And then you can see kind of a breakdown on where those funds are coming from to pay our debt. About a third's coming from general fund, about a third's coming from the CIP fund, and then with stormwater special and debt service fund and special revenue fund. Oh, I'm sorry. We're back on consolidated budget. I was thinking we were still on debt service.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Sorry. That's a breakdown of our consolidated budget on how our budget's made up. I apologize. I got ahead of myself. As you can see, the general fund makes up about 38% of the budget. Our CIP makes up the next largest portion, which is about 37%, followed by our special revenue funds, which are new this year, which is hospitality and accommodations. And then you can see our debt service and our stormwater funds. So again, this is final reading and the public hearing was closed earlier. So if council is good with what we have and we've come to, then I would ask council if you would please adopt the budget so that we can put it in place beginning July 1. And I can answer any other questions that you have before you decide to take any action.
I know we kind of broke in on him asking questions. Just always please remember the Robert's rules let me recognize y'all. Just remember that. Any questions? Any more questions?
And we took notes from what you said, and we'll make sure we review that and get back.
If there are no more questions, is there a motion to move to approve the FY 2024 proposed consolidated budget?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
If I can, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
No, you go ahead, bang it. I just want to thank everybody before I sit down.
Yes, we all should. And I think on behalf of council, everyone plays a part in this. It's not just finance. So really great job. I thought the binders were much easier to kind of follow through. They get better and better, but
Yeah, that's all I wanted. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure before I sat down, I thanked Natalie and her team for what they've done, Chris's involvement, all the senior staff, council's input that you give us throughout the process. With all of that, it makes this so much smoother to do it so quick. And thank you for everybody for being involved and being engaged. So, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt.
No,
So
no,
I'll let you
no
bang
problem.
the gavel.
I won't.
Helps when you
Next-
have enough money to do the projects and stuff you want to do, too.
Next, we have formal agenda items, which we have 3. First is Natalie, consideration of a resolution for the 2024 budget marketing plan presented by Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce in accordance with contract 2022-35 as the town of Bluffton's designated marketing organization. And we have our chamber here, so thank y'all for staying.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the year 2 of the contract that was put into place last year for 2022-35. And this is per state law where 30% of our state accommodations tax is submitted to our DMO to use for promoting and advertising on behalf of the town. ATAC met on May 16th to review the proposal by the DMO and has recommended that Town Council award the second year to the DMO of the contract, which will begin on July 1st, 2023. Here is their proposed budget. I believe we may have another budget, but this is what was proposed prior to the 8% that was submitted to be reduced in this now approved budget. So I believe that will be coming forward, but this is what was proposed to ATAC for 2023.
So this has that, wait a minute, so we're voting on something different from the budget.
So no. That's separate. This is for the state tax portion.
I got you.
For the DMO.
Okay.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Based on 30%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Go back to that. Do you
Sure.
know? Okay. I might have questions, but just wanted to look at that. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have it on my screen.
Okay. So ATAC and staff recommends that the town council approve the resolution proposed. Upon approval, the resolution will be put into place beginning July 1st. And this will be for the upcoming fiscal year that will end June 30th, 2024. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions on this side? Questions over here? Yes, no? No, or yes?
So,
Mr. Toomer has a question.
yeah, I've got to now. I thought I knew all, understood everything, but I'm clarifying. We don't know what that 30% is going to be.
So
That could be this amount, that 425 or whatever is on this paper, or it could be 700.
correct. It is state law that it is 30% of the state funds that we receive. So it is an estimate, just as all the budgets are an estimate. So this was the proposed estimate of the state funds.
I'll follow up with Larry. Say in September, I don't know, it's almost like property taxes. We don't really know what we have until we get them.
Right, that's
When do you know that number?
We receive the state funds quarterly.
So you kind of get an idea quarterly, and if it's under or over, then you bring together the marketing group, or do you come back to council?
The 30% doesn't change. It's whatever we receive, it's 30% of those funds received by the state.
But budget items change. So is that the marketing group with Stephen? We bring us together. It's not really done that before, but we don't know this year. You just don't know. It could be great, could be worse, could be the same.
Yes, ma'am. I would say if the revenues are lower than anticipated or whatever, and that budget would need to adjust, it would just be us sitting down with the chamber and seeing what needs to be adjusted to reflect the priorities of, to make sure, where that funding was, it might be 15% going for this, it may need to drop down to 5% versus that. And we can do that throughout the year as we start seeing what revenues come in. But one thing I would just point out is they do lag. So like the quarter that ends June 30th, we may not get that check until August or September. So we won't start seeing this fiscal year numbers until we get closer to, but we can review that each one and see how we're looking, and then we can have those conversations.
And this happens every year. I'd hate to be on that end of it, but
The last 2 years, what we've saw is that number has been higher than we anticipated. This year, it could be lower, it could be high, but we can continue to track that and have those conversations.
any other questions? Okay. If not, is there a motion that was up here to approve the resolution for the 2024 budget and marketing plan presented by the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce in accordance with contract 2022-35 as the town of Bluffton's designated marketing organization?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And you don't have to comment in between either, so I'll keep it to myself. Thank you, and thank y'all for coming. Excited to work with you again. Next, we have the accommodations tax, and you're up still. We'll get to that.
So these are the applications that were submitted for quarter ending March 31st. There were 5 applicants. The requested amount was a little over $261,000, and the recommended amount for funding from ATAC was $244,628. And I'll go through each applicant individually. This is a preview of what we have currently between state and local accommodations tax. There is a little over almost $2.8 million available for distribution between the two funds. The first applicant is Society of Bluffton Artists. This is their annual request, and they're requesting $15,000 in support of promoting the arts in the Low Country and beyond. Would you like me to go through all of the?
Let's do, I'm sorry, I was
That's
trying to
okay.
get up on the background on this one. Let's do individual if they have
Okay.
questions. So the first applicant is Society of Bluffton Artists. You see the, oh, you're going through it, doesn't have.
Do you want me, I can jump back and forth to the end of the presentation that has the motions?
Let's do, we usually just do each individual one because there may
One
be
and vote on it?
questions. Yeah. So your amount requested was $15,000, amount recommended $15,000 from Society of Bluffton Artists. And I saw Christy came in. Thank you. Are there questions on this this application? Any questions of Christy or of Natalie? Okay. Amount requested $15,000. Is there a motion to approve the amount recommended of $15,000 for Society of Bluffton Artists?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next is the symphony.
Yes, the Hilton Head Symphony Orchestra has come before ATAC and Town Council for their 2023 Bluffton concerts. They have requested $48,628. They are proposing to have 2 concerts, one to coincide with the Historic Arts and Seafood Festival, and then another holiday pops concert that will be held at St. Gregory.
Why St. Gregory? Why not where it always has been?
They did hold it at St. Gregory last year.
Oh, okay, I thought that was the one at Wright Family, Martin Park. Or is that
was here in
the
the
seafood? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, I just couldn't get that.
Do we have the, do you have a, where we can see what we gave them last year?
I can get that for you.
If it's easy, don't,
No, it's, let's see.
just curious as to what.
So last year, there was $38,374 that was awarded for the 2022 Bluffton concerts.
How many concerts last year?
There were 2 proposed last year as well.
2 this year?
Yes, sir.
It really is a community. I've never seen so many people happy, from an 18-year-old to an 88-year-old. I've never seen such a diverse group in age like the same thing. And I think it's because it's outside, honestly, and you can have wine.
Well, I think, I think that it adds such a new dimension to our community. I mean, it's like it takes us up to another level. And I will say, even the Pops concert, I tried to get into St. Gregory last year. I couldn't, had to go to Hilton Head because they're sellouts. I mean, you know, the community supports them, you know, thoroughly. So I think they're just wonderful.
Yeah. I hope when New Riverside comes on, maybe they'll have a third one. So, any other questions on this particular request? So the, if you go back to that
Yep.
one, 'cause I'm going, well, I can go back. So the amount on the Hilton Head Symphony Orchestra, requested and recommended was the same of $48,628. Is there a motion to accept that recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Just as a reminder, Historic Bluffton Foundation. Okay, we're next on that one.
So this is the annual request of the Historic Bluffton Foundation to serve as the town's welcome center at Hayward House. There is a decrease this year. They are requesting $150,000 in support of those services.
Okay. Any questions we have? Robert, was he? There's Robert. Okay. I missed him last. Oh, and the board is all here. So we have people here. Are there questions of any of them or of Natalie on this? There's amount recommended was $150 requested, and the amount recommended by our ATAX was $150. Is there a motion to approve that recommendation?
I support that with the decrease of asking.
Is there a second to that support? We don't know, but thank you. You're lowering the amount you request.
First to lower the amount. That's what, amen to me.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Just as a reminder, are you going to recuse yourself from these
I was
two?
going to be doing it once we got to it.
Do y'all need her to sign it now or after the recusal form?
After's fine. As long as she's going on the record recusing, you're
Then
fine.
I'm going to let you say it.
Yeah, and I'm going to be doing that for the next two.
So let it be shown on the record that Councilwoman Frazier is recusing herself on Bluffton MLK Observance Committee and for Blackwoody SC. Thank you. Okay. Bluffton MLK Observance Committee.
Yes, so this is the application for the Juneteenth Festival, which you just heard about. They are requesting $20,000 in support of advertising, facilities expenses, municipality services, and tourist transportation.
Okay. There's been a recommended amount, a requested amount, and a recommended amount of, going down to see my notes. $20,000. Any questions of Christy or Natalie on this? If not, is there a motion to approve the recommendation of $20,000? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that's 4 with 1 recusal.
And our final applicant, this is their initial application. What was submitted was for an oyster roast. And then when it came to ATAC, it had blossomed into the Roots and River Festival. It was formed by ATAC. They liked the change, but they had requested that Blackwoody come back with an amended application. We have met with Blackwoody to go over some discussion and any questions that they may have. We do have the next quarter application coming due on June 30th, so it's just around the corner. ATAC did still recommend $11,000 for the festival.
So I got a question on this. What changed between the oyster roast versus this? Would the recommendation have been higher if it was an oyster roast, or?
Some of the things did change, and so the budget had changed, but they needed to come back with that amended budget. So in the meantime, ATAC still wanted the committee to still proceed, so that's why they're recommending at least $11,000, and then there'll still be time to come in prior to the event when ATAC meets in August.
And when is that event?
Question.
When is the event?
The event is in September.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hamilton.
I think we ran into a situation like this before where their request needed to be updated, but we approved it, but they wouldn't get the funds until they met the requirement.
All of the ATAC awards are reimbursement based. So while this is awarded, we would still need to see those invoices to then reimburse it. So at least there's a comfort for the committee that the ATAC is recommending that at least this funding come through. And we have had some instances in the past where ATAC has gone back to an organization and said, hey, we really think that you need to ramp up your advertising and come back with another proposal, which they did. The May River Theater, actually, that happened with. And so they came back with a supplemental request that did come through for additional advertising.
So I don't mind approving the request, even though that's not what we're voting on at this point, but the initial request was $28,135. But if they don't, if that's something that need more time to work on, or is there something that we can say, we will allow this fund to you, but you have to prove at a later date before you get the remaining balance of the difference between 11,000 and 28,000. Is that possible?
I'm not sure what that second request is going to be, honestly. So I don't know if it'll be 28,000 or if it'll be more or less. So they did need to go back and revise their budget, which will be coming forward in June, at the end of June.
This month. So if this is awarded, then they can get more or request more by the end of the month, 2 weeks, within 2 weeks.
Yes, it'll still need to go through ATAC and then come before town council.
They'll get it long before September.
No, it'll come into September. We're not going to have another request next month.
Right. Correct. It'll come in
But
September.
they all know they're getting the money.
Well, nothing's final until.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I have some questions, but I'll let Dan, any questions on this right now?
I guess the only thing, and again, they all come in with a higher request, and then when they go through the process, the money comes down. So this budget, as it says, is 17,000. The ATAX committee said we'll give you 11 of the 17. We're talking about them coming back for the additional portion within 2 weeks. And I guess the only question in my mind would be, does the delay impact them in any negative way? I don't know the answer to that yet. If the delay doesn't impact them negatively, then it doesn't matter. They go forward and they go through the process like everybody else and they get their money. So I don't know the answer to that question. Do you? I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that question. Everything is reimbursement based, so even if anybody comes through, even all the applicants at this point, they still have to pay for everything and then submit for
There's a
reimbursement.
delay. There's always a delay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But at least with this, the organization, the ATAC is recommending this amount, which was what was in their advertising budget, to proceed with the Roots and River Festival.
So I have a question. Reading through this, I had marked it. The application was larger. So you look at the application amount and then the committee breaks it down on the budget that y'all can work with, right? So any group, its initial application could be anything.
Correct.
But what we look at is and thank goodness for this group that vets it to make sure we're all on it. So of that 28,000, it was determined that 17,000 would be something that we would be able to support. Am I right on that? That's how I kind of read it.
The 17,000 was in their advertising budget, and then what could be funded with,
So my thing is just trying to, with the money we have, if it was a legit expense, and again, they may not spend 17, they may give you receipts for 5. Why aren't we allowing it like we're allowing others? So my hope, and I've got a question on who we can ask too, because I don't want to mess up this recusal and up here at the dais. My thought is to at least let the applicant have what was budgeted, what was requested and recommended, when we might not pay it out. But if it's legit expenses, no harm, no foul, we've got a huge amount of money we got to spend. So I'd like to make it easier for applicants as long as our ATAX is focusing on that. I don't want to give more than that's going to get us in trouble. So if we did that, and I don't know what they're thinking, but if we did that, what would a group like this come back to relook at the initial application, or would it be done at that point?
it would be the amended project. So what was presented in the application was the oyster roast, but then what was presented was the Roots and River Festival. So the budget, there were just significant changes. So
I get that. I get that. Let me ask Terry a question. If we have, we had a councilwoman that recused herself because she's on that committee, but we don't have answers on certain things. Is that something where somebody can walk off this dais and then be treated as the applicant? Or is she the applicant
I
for
think
this?
I think we are safer doing what we're doing right now as opposed to having her address council.
Could we not ask the committee
ask the
member?
committee, yeah,
A committee member to why these numbers were changed? Or, what was incomplete or justified or unjustified, or, I know we have a program, a guideline to go by.
We have a scoring sheet.
Right. So it's normally something, so.
Council, Mayor, how are
Hi,
y'all?
it's good to see you.
Same here.
Yes.
This is my first one, a little like shaking. So when the application came through, it was a oyster roast, and the amount of people that they were looking to have was 150 to 300. And I don't have that information all in front of me right this second, but that's just, so when they came up and started presenting, it went to a festival, which I thought was not a better idea, but I think you can bring a lot more people in, more than 150 to 300. I think they'll bring a lot more. So in their budget, there was a whole bunch of things in there like $5,000 or $3,000 for barriers and stuff like that. So we had told them that when they get to have the police, because now they'll need the police because there'll be a lot more people, that they have barricades and stuff, so that didn't need to be part of the budget. So there was a lot of little things like that in there. So we suggested for them to come back and make it a festival and not a oyster roast, because we didn't have the application or their new stuff for a festival, which would be totally a different, different scoring. Even on the scoring of the sheet, if it's a festival, you get more points. So that's the reason why we suggested to go ahead and let them advertise it, come back, and all the other things they change, because they could be asking for a lot more.
Right.
So we didn't want them to be penalized because they were changing. So they still, we suggested that they still get their advertising budget, and then we could go ahead, when the next one comes in, we can actually see everything for a festival, then we could grant whatever else they needed.
So the support of it I like, because it's a new request, we're trying to get this money out. I get that. So really to get them back on track of report coming to exactly what's going on, because I think we'll actually, if it's a festival, we will be able to use with our ATAX, right?
They get ATAX funding, the officers can be covered, just like we were talking
So
about.
there's, I think, sitting with whoever this is that made the application, getting them in before the festival. It'll be September's meeting, right, or August?
ATAC will be in August.
So we get it in September before which really.
It's September 15th, if I remember correctly.
Okay, that's helpful.
Well, I feel like because of the unknowns, and we're not hurting them, I don't know, I'm saying what I believe to be factual, I don't know. If we approve the 11,000 that's already been screened, they're coming back in 2 weeks. They may bring a totally different package in, is what it sounds like, which they didn't have. They couldn't do their job without it. So let it go through the process. They may even request more money, and then they're going to have an opportunity to get that funding to either fill out what the negative portion of this was, or more. And they'll get it in time for their event.
And they can go ahead and start using this if it gets approved now.
Right. So I don't see where it's
budgeting for it.
I don't see where it hurts them at this point.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I agree, and I kind of, out of respect for our committee too, not saying that we can't override their decisions in any way. I didn't see the applications and study, and I know we have the criteria that, these I's have got to be dotted and these T's got to be crossed, and we've not given money to other people because they're the things, it didn't follow the rules, so to speak. So, I mean, I'm fine with giving as much as they want as far as the number, but I
Need to add anything to it?
think this is,
The only thing I wanted to say is that when it comes to these applications, I know that I go through it with a fine tooth pen and.
Fine tooth comb, not a pen.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
No brush.
But how it was explained to me is that we can only look at what we have, and we can only make a decision on what we have in our, possession. So if it would have changed and came back to us beforehand, then it would have been a different subject, in my opinion. But since when they didn't send a new thing until the actual meeting, that's why we had to do what we.
I got it. I got it. I just continue for Natalie. She hears me all the time, and I'm glad you have 3 members. We've got to recruit more people to come ask for this money because it's so vital. And we have 2 new, every quarter we seem to get 1 more new one. So it's kind of nice. It's getting more competitive. But let's really handhold these new applicants so they don't get overwhelmed. We don't need to make it hard for everybody to get. So, anything else? Well, there is amount requested of 17 and amount recommended of 11,000. Is there a motion to approve the amount recommended of 11,000 to Blackwood SC?
so moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Next, we have consideration it's Derek. Yes. A resolution, that's why he was dressed up. Consideration of a resolution to procure an emergency standby generator for Town Hall.
Yes,
I'll have to be lengthy, Derek.
Okay. I would like to request,
Did Kim train you?
I'm going to make this so short, you won't believe it.
See who wins. We'll just see.
Eric, you should have had all the lights go off before you asked for a
Well, if you deny me, I'm pretty sure I can have it go off.
Everything went like, I need a generator. We said, get one.
Yeah, that's all you have to do.
But yes, and this is very simple. Obviously, we've solicited some quotes from some vendors, and obviously, we're looking for approval for a generator for the town hall. Obviously, you see that it's Cummings Engineering. Cummings Emergency Power Source is the vendor that we would like to proceed with. With your approval, we want to give council approval to give town manager to proceed in a contract to enter with Cummings to get this generator ordered. Unfortunately, we have to hurry up because the timeline is very lengthy to get these equipment in.
We don't have a dollar amount, which we always usually have.
Yeah, he did. He gave 3.
It just went.
Oh,
It went fast. You said go fast. and
I was going to my agenda, and all of a sudden I see this. But don't we put the dollar amount in the motion, is what I'm saying.
He's not to the motion yet.
Oh. There you go. Trying to get him there.
I'm sorry. Make
Any
it quick.
questions of Derek?
We're still breaking him in.
Okay.
Derek, you got to bring my suit back tonight now.
That's actually 2 coats sewn together.
Any questions that relate to
A quick question for anyone watching who might just be of interest to this. Where would the generator be housed, and how would we break it out? When would it be used?
Obviously, the generator will be located right behind here next to Calhoun Station. It's going to be on a pad. That will actually go in effect every time we lose power. That's just not for storm. Anytime, I think in the past few years, we've had some outages during events, council meetings in this building, and we just lose power. And obviously, it's good to have for IT equipment to keep it up and going, because obviously everything is on here being up and going.
that help? Any other questions? Is there a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract with Cummins Emergency Power Systems LLC for a town hall generator for a fiscal impact of $154,802.20?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Right.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
We're not that hard. We have 2 items for our newspaper, which I love that he's back, sitting back there. There will be action from executive session. One is personnel matters regarding town council appointments of boards, committees, and commissions. FOIA Act 3470A1. And number 2 is personnel matters relating to town manager annual review, 3470A2. The motion for that. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
We leave, y'all can stay, or y'all Executive session. No votes were cast, no action was taken, but there is action from executive session. First, on boards, commissions, and committees. It's going to be lengthy, and we have this if y'all want it. Is there a motion to appoint and/or reappoint the following to the town's boards, commissions, and committees with all terms expiring June 30th, 2026? Accommodations tax, Aileen Mitchell, Scott Thrasher, Christy Parker, Nate Pringle. Can I read it all and y'all do one? Beautification Committee, Darlene Heinig and Jessica Palladino. Don Ryan Center for Innovation, Latoya Salters, Kevin Ryan, Walter Nestor, and Edward Taylor. Affordable Housing Committee, Meg James, Denolis Polite, and Doug McGill. Board of Zoning Appeals, Tim Dolnick, Paul Reinhardt, Gerald Workman, and Lawrence Garrison. Construction Board of Appeals and Adjustments, vice versa, Carrie Miller, Joseph Nix, and Robert Marino. Historic Preservation Commission, Joseph DePaul, Debbie Wonder, James Hess, and Carletha Frazier. And Planning Commission, John Michael Brock and Lydia DePaul. Is there a motion for that? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we did our annual review of our town manager. Is there a motion to increase our town manager's salary, which corresponds with the study that was done for town managers, to $174,473.05?
Second.
Any discussion? Is that all I need, Terry, to say? Is that all I need on that?
Correct.
Any discussion? Really great job on behalf of council. I'm sure they did it.
And that raise is effective immediately.
Effective immediately. All in favor?
vote, yeah.
All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any other motions?
I'll make a motion to give our town manager a $10,000 bonus for this year. I guess, I don't know, do we have to have a date or anything?
Payable in the next pay cycle.
Okay. For a job much improved and meeting many higher expectations of council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We do this on a one-time basis. It might not be every year, just so we know that depending on life. Any other discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
That's 4-1. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Get those-